Been tracking down a lot of folks lately here who have been racing at Oswego Speedway. Had a good one with Joe Gosick we did just the other day where he's talking about his retirement year coming up and how he's going to do some wing shows to kind of finish this out. A guy I knew back in high school, and actually for a little time after high school, back in the late 70s, Doug Heveron and I went to Liverpool High School. And you could say, well, how did you guys not know each other? Well, we kind of did, but there were over 4,000 kids in that school, so it was very easy to kind of sneak through the woodwork. He is 8th all-time in the Oswego Speedway Supermodified win list with 33, tied with another Doug Didero. Ran NASCAR for 3 seasons, 84 to 86, and most recently ran wing sprints on asphalt down in Florida. Let's head out to Oklahoma. That's right, Doug Heveron is no longer in Florida. He is out in tornado country. We recorded this on Saturday. You guys are Friday. You guys are getting this on Saturday. Doug, how we doing?
Very good. Thanks for calling, Doug. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, nice to hear from you, too. Everything's good. Lately, it seems like everybody's got something going on. Your health is good. You feel good, all that?
Yeah, right now everything's going well. Got no complaints. Just got to try to get used to cold weather, which I'm not used to anymore.
So it is cold out there in Oklahoma? It's not like Florida?
No, it's not like Florida, that's for sure. I mean, in the summers it gets hot, but like next week it's going to only get in the 30s, and there'll be some snow north. And January and February they tell me are not good here, so we'll see.
Well, you can remember what it was like when you lived up here, then, at least. So it's in your blood.
Well,
you'll be fine.
Hopefully it won't be that much snow, though. Hopefully it won't be that much snow.
Yeah, we're supposed to get a lot. I know you guys are listening to this on Saturday. I hope you guys are doing okay wherever you are. For this conversation, I want to tell a story first, but we're going to talk about his NASCAR days, 84 to 86. But I remember we had mutual friends back in the day. Bernie and Kelly and all of those people, and we used to run into each other at parties. And I remember one time I was like, we were watching a cup race on TV, and I asked them, "Where's Doug?" And they pointed at the TV, and I had no idea. How did that all come about, the NASCAR thing?
Well, like when growing up, I always wanted to go to Indy because you always went to Oswego. My parents always brought us to Oswego, and I was like back then it was like a stepping stone supposedly to Indy. So we went to Indy and whatever happened. And then, I ended up breaking my ankle practicing or just the day before the qualifying at Indy. So my parents really didn't like the idea of doing that again. So in 84, we went Winston Cup racing. He got to be good friends with Junior Johnson, and we bought some Junior Johnson cars. And when Waltrip and I believe it was Bonnet was driving for him, and that's how we started. We had 3 businessmen out of Syracuse that kind of put up the money to run. I think we ran 16 races that year, and we couldn't get no sponsor, so I just kind of went from ride to ride after that, trying to get one, but to no avail.
31 total races for him in NASCAR, 3 top 15 finishes over that time. So what was that like? First time, unloading a cup car and actually racing with all these guys that I'm sure a lot of them you probably idolized as kid.
I was crapping my pants. I mean, I led one race in Pocono because we didn't pit, and I look in my mirror before the green flag come out, and there's Bobby Allison, Neil Bonnet, Earnhardt, all these guys behind me. And this is back where there's not very many young people racing.
Right.
In NASCAR, anyways, and especially from the north. But it was quite the experience, and everybody was, they kind of, after they got used to it, but you have to go through being like a prospect from the north to the south. Mm-hmm. But we managed to make a lot of good friends, and they appreciated us.
Did they look at you differently because you're from New York? Because a lot of people in different parts of the country, they only think of New York as New York City.
Yeah, I made sure everybody knew that I wasn't part of New York City. But, yeah, they did it first. NASCAR, the officials did. They stick you out you don't get a garage. They get you to stick you outside and just certain things. And then, the drivers want to rough you up a little bit, which was fine. I understand. Mm-hmm. But it was nothing. I mean, Jeff Bodine was already there, Bouchard, Sachs. So it wasn't like I was the first one coming, but everybody, they got to kind of let you know, just like I kind of had to let people know later in my career, too.
Okay. Did they know anything about Supermodifieds and Oswego Speedway?
They knew Oswego Speedway, and they knew Supermodifieds, yeah.
So that
and they
must
thought
have.
I was pretty well crazy driving them.
Oh, I know that was going to be my thing. Yeah, so they were like, if you drive those things, you must be fairly nuts.
Well, after Waltrip, when we were at Pocono, he came over to Oswego, and the Bollies had bought our stuff because we got out of Supermodified racing, and him and Bentley put on a little expedition for the fans at Oswego. I think this was 80, it had to be 84, I think. And he came back to Pocono, and he looked at me and he said, "Man, you're nuts."
Must have helped with the respect factor a little bit, I would think, right?
Yeah, he was like, "Holy cow." And, for Darrell Waltrip to say that.
Yeah.
And, they weren't blistering times or anything, but you don't need to when you got, a big block with an 1,800-pound race car.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a lot of horsepower, a lot more than the Cup cars had.
About what were the Cup cars then? How much horsepower do you think they were then?
I don't really remember. Probably. And then, they weigh, 3,600 pounds.
Right, so twice the weight.
Yeah. It was different then. They had the carburetors and all that good stuff.
How did you do right away? Did you adapt quickly, or did it take some time?
No, I thought I adapted. Some places were harder than others, like Darlington and a few other ones, but I picked it up pretty good. We had some, for being underfunded, we had some pretty decent runs. I had to qualify, I had to pass AJ Foyt in the 125s to make my first 500. And I think we ended up 13th or something. So, I had some good runs for underfunded. Mm-hmm. Just never got the real good break.
What was the most intimidating track the first time you went to it?
Darlington.
I've heard that's tough, right? Because you got to run up there on the wall, right?
Tough. Yeah, and even on iRacing, how they changed it now?
Mm-hmm.
I can't even get used to that on iRacing. I'm so used to it the other way. But, yeah, no, me and Darlington, I could run okay there, but it wasn't my favorite, put it that way.
Okay. Was there a track that, I don't want to say easier, but was there one that maybe with your Oswego background you maybe caught on to a little quicker?
I liked any flat track.
Mm-hmm.
I got, Daytona and Talladega were different, but Michigan, I had a tough time with, and it seemed like the bigger bank ones, but flatter tracks I did pretty darn good at. So, and we didn't, there wasn't quite as many tracks as there are today.
True.
And, of course, back then the race, was better short track racing because there's not much of that now.
That's true. I've heard just from drivers I hear talking when I search YouTube videos, they say Martinsville was always kind of tough.
Well, yeah. That's kind of physically, and, I didn't even think of Martin, but, yeah, it is. That's just a long race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they said it makes your neck sore because you're leaning over so much, right?
Well, yeah, and especially back then because we only had a strap hooked from our helmet to underneath our arms.
Mm-hmm.
Now they got all them, the seat, full seat containments and everything.
Yeah, you got a support right there to hold your head up, right?
Yeah. So, I still remember the picture of Ricky Rudd winning and getting out, and he could probably barely stand up. Those were the days,
Mm-hmm.
So, but today they got, the containment seats and cool suits
mm-hmm.
and all that good stuff.
About a little over a minute left at this point. Was Bristol as fun back then as it was? Because that was kind of the old configuration of Bristol, right?
I like Bristol and the pavement. Yeah, I like the old Bristol rather than the new one. I didn't have in the Busch cars. I didn't have much luck at Bristol, but it seemed like I ran better when it was asphalt before they made all the grandstands and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when you watch the old from the 80s, and they got just a few seconds left. Was it? I watched a race that you were in. They showed it one time from Bristol. Was it as slippery as it looked? And again, we only got 30 seconds.
Bristol, or was that the one that come out is Richmond? But yeah, they were all pretty slick because we're on bias-ply tires and square cars.
Mm-hmm.
They're aerodynamic, but yeah, they're all pretty slick.
And I want to keep this going. Doug, you got a minute to stick around for another one?
Sure.
All right, so we're going to end this one here. We're going to do a part 2. I'll have that up sometime during the week, and we'll kind of pick up where we left off, talking a little bit more about NASCAR. Again, Doug Heveron, Oswego legend, NASCAR racer, Indy, all that stuff, and of course spreads. We'll have a part 2 coming up real soon. Make sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications.